Welcome to the Eli Kassab Experience.
Welcome to the podcast. On today's episode, I have my good friend Danny Reyes. Say hello, Danny.
What's up?
Danny is an athletic trainer who is currently at the University of Utah with the football team. Danny has worked with me in the past with the Miami Dolphins back in 2014, but you started in 2011 or something like that? 11, right?
Summer. Yep.
So did a couple of summer internships with the Dolphins and then worked his way up into a year-long position. He was there for a couple of years. Then he went on to do his GA-ship with the University of Florida Gators. And you were out there for 2 years doing your GA-ship, and then you stayed an extra year to work football, right?
Yes,
and then you just got a full-time position at the University of Utah football team.
This past July. Yep.
Past July, so this was your first season with them.
Correct.
And then you pretty much, moved across the coast and then posted up shop in Salt Lake City.
Yep.
And you are a Miami native, right?
Miami born and raised, baby.
Nice. And then undergrad, Nova Southeastern University,
Nova
right?
Southeastern University, yep.
In Davie.
Go Sharks.
Did I miss anything as far as that? Pretty much sum up your schooling and career. You know,
Pretty much.
Did I miss anything in there?
In between years after I finished my year-long internship, or my second year-long internship with the Dolphins, that was your second year, I believe.
Right.
I went and I worked with the team doctors for the Dolphins. So I worked with Dr. Yagnik and Uribe and all those guys, and I was predominantly with a traumatologist. It was Dr. Charles Jordan. So that was my predominant doctor that I worked with, but I also worked with, throughout the week, Uribe and with Dr. Yagnik. And Uribe and Yagnik are still the team positions for Miami.
That's right. Yeah. So a lot of football, but you had a little bit of mix there with that 1 year.
I had that 1 year of clinical experience.
Yeah.
And it was interesting.
That's awesome. And how's Salt Lake been treating you so far?
Salt Lake's
Coming
good,
from
man.
like spending your whole life in Miami, South Florida, and then Salt Lake City.
It's a very, very big change.
Yeah.
It's weather-wise, obviously. I mean, it snows here, all of that. But it's a change and a good thing. I get seasons now. It's not year-round summer, which is really nice. It's not humid here, which is also very nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a lot colder here and all that good stuff. But it's awesome to experience the seasons. You've been to Salt Lake. For those who haven't been to Salt Lake, I mean, it's beautiful, man. Nature is everywhere. You can't drive anywhere without having the mountains right next to you, which is really, really nice. And there's a lot to do within 20 minutes of where I live. I live just south of downtown, so I mean, I can get on the highway. I could be in Park City in 30 minutes. I could, I just drove 45 minutes a little earlier today. I went to Antelope Island to go hike over there. It's just
nice.
It's nice, man. Nature here is nice. Yeah,
that's awesome. And how's the adjustment been between going from dealing with the people of South Florida and the people of Salt Lake City? Have they been treating you well?
Dude, it's a total 180. It's just the complete opposite from South Florida. I love home. It's home in South Florida, but people are rude, man. People are kind of douchebags down there.
It's true. I say the same thing. Thing.
People are rude and stuff, and here you get here, and people are so much nicer, and everyone says hi to you. Even today in my hike, when people would cross by, hey, how you doing? How's your day? It's hey man, super friendly people. Everyone's very, very nice. Everyone, and then at work, everyone treats me like family, which is really nice too. So I can't complain about that.
That's awesome, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And how was as far as the work perspective, the work side of things, how was it working? Your first year with the football team down there. Yeah. How was that experience?
It was different and it was very similar in different facets, obviously. I mean, it was different just because you're getting used to a new environment, getting used to new athletes. You have to talk to these guys a little bit differently. You have to treat them a little bit differently. They come from not the background that I'm used to dealing with, they come from, you know, not necessarily, some of them not necessarily like football backgrounds. They're just regular kids, that happen to be pretty athletic and they could play football where, this wasn't part of their whole lives and stuff, as opposed to back in Florida, like these kids came out of the womb with football in their hands and like that's all they knew. And that's, it was football 24/7. They were in Pee Wee ball and they went up to Pop Warner. They did Optimist. They did all of that stuff. They worked their way through middle school, JV, high school, and now they're in college. So they've done it their whole lives. A lot of guys here haven't done that. And it also it's a very big difference when it comes to just culture. Obviously here being in Salt Lake, the LDS, church is very, very big here in the state of Utah, period. But especially here in Salt Lake, so a lot of our athletes are LDS, athletes. So I hadn't really worked with any of them before. Not that they're different, they're regular people. But it's they come from a different background. It's a different culture that you kind of got to get used to, and just how you communicate with them and the examples you could use that I used to use with other students, at Florida, at the Dolphins, at Nova Southeastern University. Like, had to kind of sit down and think a little bit and kind of talk to these guys a little bit different. But yeah, culture-wise, it's been different. But then and just adapting to the staff here has been a little bit different, as well. But the similarities come where it's still athletic training, it's still football. Practices are still football practices. You're gonna get injuries. You're gonna have days that are just never ending. You're gonna have days where you just have an absolute blast. You're gonna have days that are just absolutely rough, and you're just like, "What am I doing?" But like me, I love what I do. My least favorite part of my job is training camp. For college, high school, NFL, whatever it may be, it sucks. It is grueling. It is very, very long days, and I got here 2 weeks before training camp started. So I moved across the country in 4 days. I got settled in, the air quotes on that one, and then just started. So that was a challenge. That wasn't easy. Not knowing anything here, not knowing anyone here, just not knowing even the lay of the land, was a little different. So it took a little getting used to, and you kind of had to do that fast and quickly. But I'm glad it worked out well. But yeah, it was. There's definitely challenges coming from out east, out here to the west coast.
And so, just to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, I know that was kind of, and learning how to talk to athletes and stuff. I know this is a conversation I have with current students or interns and stuff. And it's the soft skills in athletic training are the things that they don't teach us. So what are if you can provide some specific examples as far as if there are new athletic trainers listening that are wondering well, learning to communicate differently, like you said, using different examples to try and connect with the athlete and kind of relate to them. So, phone call.
Do it.
Timing. Nope, not during the podcast. Anyway, let's put this on airplane mode. So, what are some examples, I guess, with soft skills, whether you're dealing with an athlete from injury or rehab or so specifically, what was it about the communication style that was hard? I know for me, it was just, learning how to talk to athletes that just don't want to do rehab and don't want to do certain things and learning to try how to get through certain people. So if you got any examples, what could you share specifically about the communication barrier?
Well, to start off, I feel like education part, they don't really do a good job about this, I feel. No one really teaches you a bedside manner. No one really teaches you how to talk to people. They teach you everything from a special test to, what do we got to look for anatomy-wise and all that stuff. But, I found it challenging, even in grad school or in undergrad, to be honest with you. No one kind of, explained that part, And then I guess part of an athletic trainer, you have to have a little bit of personality, so you have to be able to to joke about things. You have to be able to be serious about things at different times, you know. But like, no one ever really teaches you bedside manner. You kind of learn that by the people that you're around and stuff. So, you know, uh, Kevin O'Neill, he used to be at the head athletic trainer for the Dolphins. I don't think you didn't work for him. You worked under Ryan. Right?
Yeah, no, I worked with Ryan. I met Kevin, but
he met Kevin. Okay, so Kevin, like, is he kind of gave me the really good example of having a very good bedside manner to begin with, right? So he explained everything in depth. He kind of explained it to people without going over their head. You know, he basically dumbed it down, but what he was saying was extremely accurate, right? So to give you an example, when I was back at Florida, like whenever you had to explain an injury or something, you know, if an athlete asked you, well, what happened? Why do I have this? You know, you had to dumb it down, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all, but you had to bring it to a level that they could understand you know. And once you kind of explained that, my experience was, all right, cool. What do I got to do? You know, and it's just you kind of just go from there. When I got here to Utah, I was kind of surprised that a lot of these guys like knew a little bit about, you know, anatomy, about physiology, about injuries and stuff. So when I say, oh yeah, we got a lateral ankle sprain, and they're like, oh okay, well what ligament are we talking about? We're like, wait a minute, like, okay, well the ATF, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, I know where that is. It's like, what's your background? Oh, I'm an engineering major. I'm like, then why do you know this? But you know, but it's cool. It's like, all right, so, you know, so you could talk at a different level. You could talk at a you know, you could just get straight to the point, I guess, with these guys. And then I've always tried to basically break down everything from the rehab process. You know, from the point of injury. You know, everyone is all, you know, it could be an array of emotions: upset, angry, you know, everything. You know, you've experienced it too. But from that point, and then kind of draw out and give them the layout of what's going to happen, what to expect, you know, all of that stuff. I try to always be very, very honest with them. You know, rehab is not easy. It's not meant to be fun. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to be challenging. If you're not sweating, and my theory is, if you're not sweating with rehab, man, we're not doing something right. You know, it can't be easy, because if you expect to get back to the level that you were at sport, or exceed that level, which is what we try to do when we rehab people, you're going to be busting your butt in sport. You're going to be sweating in sport. So we got to sweat a little bit in rehab, and we got to get the heart rate up. So I guess the difference was going back to the original question. I keep going on tangents, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
Going back to that original question, yeah, like just like a scenario like that with the whole ankle sprain, you know, where I would tell a kid, you know, back in Florida, it's like, yeah, man, you got a lateral ankle sprain, you know, these take usually around this time, you know, you never give them an exact date either. I've learned that too over the years. But, you know, you kind of just give them a little rundown. Yeah, you'll be all right. You know, we'll do all these rehab exercises and stuff. But like when I got here, I got a lot of follow-up questions. I wasn't kind of expecting that at the beginning. But now it's just like a normal thing. It's like, all right, well, he's going to ask me, what do I have to do? You know, how long is this going to take? You know, can I do it once, you know, twice a day, or is it only a one time a day thing? Or, you know, for surgical athletes, hey man, when can I come out of my sling? I hate this thing. I can't sleep. My neck hurts. You know, stuff like that. And then, you know, having to explain why they can't come out of their sling for another week, and the importance of keeping that on, the importance of immobilizing the joint, all of that stuff. You know, so it's a little bit different. I feel like here too, you don't have to baby them as much. You know, a lot of our guys are, I wouldn't say older, but some of them are, just because some of them start their college careers, and then they go on an LDS mission, which the mission usually takes anywhere from 1 to 2 years. So when they come back from this mission, they could be sent anywhere in the world too. You know, that's something that I had to learn. Like, I'm like, well, what's your mission? I don't get it. You know, They explain it to me and all that. So they get sent to, it could be anywhere in the United States. It could be anywhere in the world, really. So they usually go there for 2 years, and they are, you know, doing stuff for their mission. They're not playing football. They're not training. They're not lifting. They're not, you know, their nutrition isn't like a football nutrition athlete. You know what I mean? So it's very different. And then they basically leave that, and they come back the very next semester that they're back to school, and then oh wait, you're expected to go and do winter conditioning. You're expected to go and bench 225 20 times. You're expected to do all of these things, and obviously our strength coaches are great here, and they understand that, hey, we got to bring this guy back to where he was. But it's a big adjustment for them, and it's also a big adjustment for us because they haven't been around football. So now it's a totally different thing when it comes to communication. It's just different because as much of a shell shock that it is for them getting back into it, it's a little bit like that for us, just because we'll get frustrated with like the little things. It's like, hey man, like, yeah, you got to come in for rehab. You got to do this. You got to do it. They're like, oh, my bad, dude. Like, I just don't remember or whatever. So they just got to get back in the groove, you got to get in the groove with them, so to speak. So it has its challenges, but it's worked out.
And then, talk to me about your GA-ship life. We talk about comparing the athletes. You know what I mean? But let's talk about your experience, like maybe as a graduate assistant. What was that like being in grad school and working essentially full time?
So I remember before I left the Dolphins. Now, for the people who don't know him, now Hisa Inoue.
Yep, he's one of the athletic trainers.
He's one of the one assistant athletic trainers. I remember he kind of pulled me aside right before I left, and we had a good talk. Kind of thanking me for everything I did. Explaining to me how I've grown. Since my very first day as a summer intern to my very last day as a year-long intern. Like, you definitely learn a lot. So we were kind of just talking and stuff, and then he brought it up. He's like, hey man, so the next step is getting a GA position. Doing all of that, and he told me, he goes, this is going to be the hardest thing you've probably done in a while. And I didn't believe him. I'm like, yeah, how hard can it be, dude? I worked, 220 plus hours for 2 weeks, in a time period, and we both did it. That was brutal as it could be. So it was one of those things where it's just like, how hard can it be? And then, well, I get to Florida, and I get there in May. So I wasn't enrolled in classes yet, which was nice. So I got to kind of just go and kind of work, because it was right after spring ball was done. But it was kind of get into summer conditioning, get to know the players, get to do all of that stuff. Oh, hey, cool, training camp's here. All right, let's go into camp. And I'm in camp, and everything's cool. And then it's like, oh crap, classes start next week. Like, yikes. And this is 2016. I graduated undergrad in 2013. I did the 2 years with the Dolphins. So
you've been out of
the
rhythm.
and then the 1 year after the Dolphins, working with the team docs. So it's like, man, I've been out of school for 3 years, and like that first semester was rough. I did good grades wise and all that stuff throughout all of grad school, which I was happy about. But that first semester was not easy. Just getting back into the groove of things, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Being the first one to open up the training room, working a whole day, having to leave for class. Classes were once, twice a week sometimes. And classes weren't an hour long. Classes were like 3 to 4 hours long consecutive, just hours, no breaks, no nothing. And then leave class, go back to your job, and then start taping guys up for practice. Guys go to meetings, scarf down whatever you can for lunch. Oh wait, now we got to go out to practice. Practice is usually a 2.5 hour deal. Come in from practice, do some post-practice treatments. By the time you look at it, it's already 9 o'clock at night. You're exhausted from the whole day. You need to eat dinner. You smell like an absolute trash can because it's just football, And then you're like, oh crap, I have 9 research articles to read, which all range from 7 to about 15 pages long. I have to go through 3 hours worth of lectures. I have to go through this, I have to go through that. It's a lot, and it hit me really hard at first, and it was rough. But like anything, you kind of just get a hang of it. You kind of go through it, and it gets done. But it was cool. And then the work part of my GA life, it wasn't easy. And I liked it. It's both good and bad. It wasn't easy, obviously, because you're in school and it's rough. You have to do a lot, and you don't really have time for anything. You don't have time to go get a workout in sometimes. You don't have time to go have a drink or something. Like you just there's no time because you're either working or you're working towards your stuff for class because you need to. You can't fail. If you fail, then you don't have a GA ship anymore. But it was good because the head athletic trainer at Florida currently, Paul Silvestri, he was my boss, and he kind of looked over me, and he knew when to challenge me. He knew when there was too much on my plate, and he knew when he could push me a little bit more. And he was always just go, 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 go. He was always on me. He was always giving me stuff to do, and I'm just here like, damn, dude, like I've got all of this I'm already doing. Why do you keep giving me stuff and keep giving me stuff? But obviously he knows what he's doing. He's done this for a while, and one piece of advice I could give is never complain. I didn't, and then I would, leave the training room, and I'd be like, "What the hell, man? All of this," and then you'd vent to your classmates that are GAs as well, and they get it because they have all the schoolwork to do, and they have all their rotations and stuff to go to as well, or their sites that they have to be at, so they understand this. So those become like your confidants, and you kind of just vent to them. We had a few conversations throughout my time there where I just kind of just vented, and you're like, "Yeah, dude, like I went through the same thing at Weber, or at Northern Arizona or wherever it was that you did grad school." And it's just like, you know what it is. It sucks. Like some of the days,
it's brutal, man.
There's no way to put it. It sucks. But thinking back now, man, I'm so glad that I went through those experiences. I'm so glad that I had those experiences because here at work, for instance, I have right now. I have my 5 surgical rehab athletes that I'm doing that I'm in charge of their rehab, and then I have 3 other guys who are injured athletes that I'm in charge of their rehabs as well. So I got 8 guys right now. I'm also in charge of the student intern program that's here at Utah. So I have 12 students that I'm in charge of with that, making scheduling, making sure they're at the right position group, making sure that they're doing all the right things at practice, doing all these things. Wow. Then you have all of your like your paperwork and all the injury logs and injury treatment stuff and all this administrative work that you have to take care of, because if you don't take care of, then you have your boss's boss coming down and being like, "Yo, what are you doing, dude?" So it's a lot that you got going on, that I have going on right now. But if it wasn't for those experiences as a graduate assistant, you wouldn't know where to start. And like you get presented with this thing, it's like, "Hey, by the way, you got to man this thing." It's like, great. You kind of sit back and you're like, "All right, what do I got to do? Like, let me plan this out. Let me, and then thankfully, we had the experience of dealing with summer interns while we were both in Miami. So we had that experience of managing people. And I even had that experience managing people way before that, even in high school, like band, as dumb as that may sound, like I was one of the officers or whatever, where we would have responsibilities and we'd have to take care of people and keep people in check and keep people in line and stuff like that, And then we had to do stuff that if we didn't do, we couldn't go and perform. We couldn't, we had to load the truck. We had to do all the grunt work, all that stuff. But like, that's normal, like whatever. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So I had that experience, and then the experience at the Dolphins. Then you get to GA. You get to grad school, and as a GA, you have to, be in charge, so to speak, of the undergrad students. So all of those experiences, you kind of just learn how to deal with people. You learn how not to be rude. You learn how, to be nice, to ask things politely, to get what you need to get by not pissing the other person off. Pretty much.
That's important.
Very important.
Yeah.
So that was like, that's where I kind of honed that skill, because it is a skill. That's where I kind of honed that in. It was in grad school. And then grad school, at the end of the day, man, you just see stuff that you don't see in other places or whatever, and depending on where you're at, depending on the doctors that you're with, we had freaking fortunate enough to have awesome doctors that work at the University of Florida, and I could ask them anything at any time. I could go watch any surgery. Like, they were just cool, man. So they, I was able to learn so much from them, just from watching them and seeing what they do. So GA life, man, it's not easy, but
No, definitely not. And now they're becoming, kind of few and far between, because, obviously our profession's moving to a graduate program only. So there's only a few GA ships left in the country.
Yeah.
Few people left going through that same experience. But What are some things you wish you would have known? I guess that you learned in your GA ship, but you wish you would have known beforehand when you got into it.
Let's see. I mean, for anyone who's going into a new GA position, let's say, right, if anyone's hearing this, and
Right.
if they don't expect to be the low man on the totem pole, I'm sorry to burst the bubble, but you're gonna be the low man on the totem pole. And you will be the first one to be voluntold to do things. You know, just when you think that you could go home, get some schoolwork done. Oh, by the way, you know, you have to go cover this, or you have to go do this, or hey, go put Gatorade in this room, or whatever. Or, hey, go, something just comes up, right? So,
Yep, always.
yeah. So, I mean, I kind of expected that. I'm not gonna lie to you, but at the same time, like, you can't really expect it, if that makes any sense. Like, because
Yeah.
what I guess the best way to put it is, I didn't expect all of the unexpected things to happen.
Okay, I
Um,
gotcha. That's
I don't know
good.
if that makes sense or not, but that's really how I like view it. Um,
Yeah.
you know, it's at any point in the time, like, I always thought that there was like, all right, I'm like, all right, this is how my day's gonna be. It's gonna be structured. It's gonna go like this, and this, and then the day starts, and from the first minute of the day, it's just flipped, and it does not go as planned. It does not go like you thought it was going to be. So it's like
Yeah.
great. It's that was the unexpectedness of the day, but
Yeah. Um,
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if
yeah.
that really
No,
answers your
that's
question or
that's no,
not,
that's
but
hey, I mean it's your answer. Like that's it's you, you know what I mean? So like,
yeah, yeah,
it's always interesting to just hear people's different, perspectives
yeah.
on it, and I know with I'm always trying to kind of get some of the, kind of some of the things that are, unexpected with jobs and positions in schools and internships. So it's really cool to kind of hear everyone's perspective on it,
I guess the
you
unexpected
know?
thing for me was I had to work men's golf too. So I had to,
Okay.
that was really challenging because you deal with football guys who you always tell, oh, get tough, you're fine, you're a tough guy, and then you go work golf, which not to say they're not tough, because yeah, these guys are athletes too, and what they do
Right.
is pretty amazing. But the game of golf is such a mental game, and you know, I guess that's a good unexpected thing when when they had an injury and I explained to them what their injury was and I explained to them, how it might bother them a little bit in their backswing and when they make contact with the ball and they look at me like I have 25 heads and it's like, wait a minute, like I'm gonna feel something when I swing and I'm like, yeah, dude, just kind of go and be fine.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, I can't, like I have to be
Yeah.
perfect and stuff. So I had to learn that, and that wasn't easy,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that was kind of an unexpected thing. Now that I think of it,
Crazy. But all good experiences. Everything teaches you something, right? Like you were
everything
saying
teaches you
earlier.
something.
Like, and what was it? And um, did you know that you was wanted to do a GA ship? Like, what was the thought process? I guess with getting a GA ship. Like, was that something you always knew you wanted to do, or did you have some other things in mind before you decided to go to the GA ship route? Like, why? I
So
guess for
yeah,
you
yeah.
personally, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, from a young age, I've known that I wanted to do this. I didn't know what we
Gotcha.
do was at the time because I was like 9 when I went to my first NFL game and I saw people go on the field and someone got hurt and I'm like, hey, that looks really cool because I could be with those guys that are really cool, but I could do that, which is pretty cool. I don't know what they do, but that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So going all through undergrad and stuff like that, it's kind of always put in your head like, yeah, you got to go to grad school and get your master's degree. And at the time, you're going through undergrad and you're like, man, undergrad's hard enough. Like I gotta go to grad school, like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it was always an intimidating thing, especially for me. It was because I'll be the first one to admit, like, not that I hate school because I don't, and the older I get, the more I learn to love it. But like I wasn't really interested in it, man. I was there
Yeah.
to get my degree, and I did well in school. It's not that I was a bad student or anything, but I was there to get my degree, and I was there to be an athletic trainer. I didn't care about my math class. I didn't care about my freaking literature class. I didn't care. But when it came to AT classes, yeah, first front row, like I was all into it. But let me see, I just lost myself. Grad school. We're talking about grad school. See,
yep. Kind of why you decided to
yes.
to pursue a GA ship route.
So I start at the Dolphins, and I look at everyone that's on staff, and they all did it, right? They all went, and they all got their masters somewhere, and then it was always instilled in you in undergrad. But then I get there, which I started my first summer was right after my sophomore year of undergrad. So I'm like freshman. I just took a modalities class. Like I barely know how to set up a STEM unit on somebody, But I started asking questions, and then it was really nice too, because at the time when I started there, I don't think you ever worked with John Andino, but he's with the Steelers. He's their PT.
Him.
Yeah, you missed him by a year as well. He was the guy. He was our seasonal intern when I was a first summer, and he was still in PT school, so he was getting his doctorate degree and stuff. And he was really cool, and I talked to him a lot about it, and I would always ask him, hey, what's it like? What's this? What's that? So having his side of things, I'm like, man, I kind of want to do PT school. It sounds kind of cool. But then at the same time, like, I always thought, man, I don't want to be confined to like a clinic, working with, no offense, a 70-year-old patient who has to, be helped to get up, and we need people to do that. Absolutely.
Right. For sure.
But that's just not what I wanted to do, and especially at that time. So, that's kind of where it started. And then seeing all of these people all across, you go to the PFATS website and you look at the staff for every single, football team, and someone did a GA ship somewhere, so I'm just like, all right, well, this is what we have to do. This is what's next in my career in order to get to what I want to get to. So that's kind of where it was. And then, applying for GAs and graduate assistant positions, like, that was brutal for me, man. And it was, unfortunately, it was a process that took a lot longer than I wanted it to. You were there for one of them when I got accepted, and then I was told, no, like, you're not going to go. I was like, wait, what? Like, and then got told again, oh, yeah, no, you're good. You're going to come. And then get told the second time, no, we're moved on from you, And, they left me a voicemail. I'm not going to mention the school or the person, but they left me a voicemail, and I'm yet to hear back from them to this day. So, that was kind of, I kind of held on to that one for a little bit. And I was a little bit bitter about that for a while, but it was just like hard, man, because it's like, man, what else do I have to do? Like,
you get your hopes up, and then it comes crashing down,
and it just crashes, man. And that happened with total of what, 1, 2, 3, 4 schools, and then when I did reach out to Florida, they had already had an intern or a GA, and it's just like, well, great, this guy, they already have somebody. They're not going to have someone here till next year. And then, at the time, like, no one else was hiring GAs for that year. Like, that's it, the timeline or that time period kind of passed. So I was kind of stuck, and it's like, all right, well, let's go, work for the team positions for the Fins. I did that for the year, and then thankfully it all worked out where I got to Florida, and I was a GA at Florida right after that year. So it started 2016. So, I mean, that's kind of how it was. I always knew that I had to do it. Yeah. And one thing I was always sure of is that I always like knew that I wanted to go somewhere good, that they could help me get places. And obviously it worked out with Florida, because I'm here because of those guys.
Yep. See, and I think that's interesting. A lot of people don't see that side of things. Like, they'll see, like, on a resume that you were here, here, and here, like these certain places, but the in-betweens, they don't know that you applied to, so many different GA ships, and then had, some offers, and then pullbacks and offer and pullback and rejections and here, and it was a process. And I think that's kind of important to highlight, because I think, like, some people get caught up in seeing everything on paper, but don't necessarily know what happens behind the scenes. So I think it's important, man. So, like, let people know that type of stuff. Like, it's not, sometimes it is easy. Sometimes you apply to one place and you get offered and you go, but not always the case. Like it's your GA ship.
Yeah, that, and then even when my first real job, which is now here at Utah, right? Like, Utah. I interviewed at, let me see, we interviewed at North Carolina Chapel Hill. I interviewed at Texas A&M University. I had phone interviews with University of Illinois. I had what else? What other interview did I have with another school? USF, like,
Lots.
and then like lots of places, right? I was flown out to two separate places where I was like considered a finalist, and then it's just weird. Like I was helping out back with the Dolphins for OTAs one day, just to do something, because I don't want to like not do anything after that. I was done at Florida, and got a phone call. Hey, Utah's hiring this, and that. Do you want me to throw your name in there? Absolutely, throw my name in there, and then that kind of just moved, and it happened, and I'm here. So, it was
crazy.
It is. It is crazy,
Yeah.
and it was also like exhausting. I didn't like it at all. I thought getting a GA position was rough. Getting your first job really is tough, man. It's not easy.
It's tough starting out.
Yeah, it really is. Once you're in, it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit better, but.
And then what was it like? We talked about your GA-ship and then the full-time job. What about the internship? So your seasonal position with the Dolphins. As far as we're talking about the process and kind of applying and getting these positions, and how did that come about? Like you go to Nova Southeastern University, you get in the program. How did the whole Miami Dolphins thing kind of come to
happen? Yeah.
fruition?
Yeah. So it's funny. One of our common friends, Rudy Rodriguez. So Rudy is a alumni of Nova Southeastern University. So when I started at NSU, he was kind of like a part-time athletic trainer there. He wasn't even like a full-time guy. And he helped out with men's basketball and I believe with another sport. I don't know what the other sport was, but he helped out with men's basketball. And at the time, Larry Starr was the head athletic trainer for men's basketball. For the people who don't know who Larry Starr is, he's an NATA Hall of Famer. He used to work with the Cincinnati Reds back in the 70s, won a ton of World Series championships with like arguably one of the best teams in Major League Baseball back in the 70s in the heyday of the Cincinnati Reds. He was the first athletic trainer for the Florida Marlins at the time from 1993, and I think he finally left the Marlins in the year 2000, so he won another championship with the Marlins in '97. And then, kind of when he was done with pro baseball and that whole crazy lifestyle, he started a program at NSU. So he was the guy who started athletic training at North Southeastern. So Rudy was under this guy, and I knew just from people that Rudy had worked with the Dolphins, and I didn't. It's weird thinking back at it, and I was talking to him about it the other day, and it was just really weird because I didn't know this guy. And if anyone knows Rudy, or if they don't know Rudy, Rudy has a very strong, serious face all the time. He might look upset sometimes, but he's the coolest dude ever. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I love the guy.
Yep.
And everyone was always a little bit intimidated by him, and I just kind of went up to him. I'm like, hey man, what's up? This is who I am. Blah blah blah. Heard you worked with the Dolphins. Like that's really really cool, and that's what I wanted to do. I want to work for a pro team one day. It was cool. All right, cool, whatever. And that's kind of where the conversation ended. And then throughout that semester, I would just help him with whatever he needed. I was always available. As soon as class ended, even if I didn't have to be at rotations, I was there. I did extra hours. I did all of these things, and he just saw like the work ethic that I had, and we got pretty close. And he's like, "Hey man, are you still serious about working with the Finns and doing the Dolphins, the Dolphins internship and stuff?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, let's do it." And he's like, "All right, cool. Let me see what I can, if I can talk to somebody." And literally, the next day, I got an email from Troy, who was one of the assistants. He's like, "Hey man, come meet with me, this weekend." Or on a Friday, I remember this email was happening on a Thursday, and I went and I met with him in person on a Friday, in February, and I'm just like, whoa, I don't even have time to like prepare, like I was nervous as heck. It's just this is it, this is the big times or whatever. So it's like I literally, the Dolphins facility is inside of Nova Southeastern, so it's like you could see it from where I'm having class, which was kind of creepy. But I like literally the next day I went, I kind of met with him, and then he's like, all right, cool, we'll be in touch. And that afternoon he's like, all right, cool, yeah, you'll be a summer intern for us. And I was like, whoa, that all like just happened within a day. So that's how I got to the Finns. I got there because of Rudy Rodriguez, because he put the word in to Troy, and Rudy was a summer intern there, but he was also a seasonal there as well back in like '08. And he did a good enough job that they love him, they still respect him and stuff, and they were able to take his word and kind of take a chance on me type thing.
Yeah.
It worked out, so that's how I got there.
And that summer, that led to a summer internship, which was, and you did one summer, or how many summers internships did you end up?
I did 2 summers, so that led to my first summer internship was in 2011.
Gotcha.
I was coming out of my sophomore year of undergrad, going into my junior year. So 2011 was my first summer. That led to them calling me back and being, "Hey, are you interested in another summer?" I'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely." I'm a local guy.
Right.
They always want at least one person that's local, so that knows the area and stuff like that. So I was the local guy again, and it was literally right next to class. So it's like, yeah, you could come whenever. That summer internship led to, you know, Kevin O'Neill being like, "Hey, do you want to help us out for home games?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I would, I'd work home games whenever the team was at home on those weekends, and I'd still be in classes and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that turned into me doing an independent study where that was my rotation site, the Dolphins, which was awesome. So I was with them the whole year, essentially, not being a seasonal guy yet. And then that led to my first year-long internship.
And so for the summer internship, for people that don't know, what is a summer internship? I guess all entail, just for people that maybe don't know about the NFL world.
So a summer internship in the NFL is basically training camp, right? So you get there about the week before training camp starts. Training camp is usually at the end of July. And that's when you have all of your new draft picks, all the new rookies that are in, they're the new guys to the NFL, so to speak, and you're starting off your new football year, because it is a year long. So that's when the football year really starts in training camp. So as a summer intern, you kind of get there about a week to a week and a half before the athletes actually report for camp. That basically gives you time to, get settled in, get all your gear, know the lay of the land a little bit as to the facility-wise, where everything is, because you're expected to know where everything is. As soon as the players are there, you're expected to know where everything is and how to do everything. You learn how to set up practice. How does practice run? Where do you got to go for this? Where do you got to go for that? How to troubleshoot different things. So it's kind of like a crash course that first week that you're there. And you're just doing a lot of monotonous tasks. Unpacking tape, stocking tape tables, making all these specialty pads, especially at Miami. So you're doing all of this like grunt work. You're just doing all this grunt work stuff. And then once the athletes actually get there, you help out with the whole physical process, which is usually about a day or 2 days long. And it's a whirlwind of a day as well. It's a lot going on with a million people going here and there, and you're getting sent to take someone for an X-ray, for an MRI, or whatever it may be. It's just busy. And then, once that's kind of done, you start practices and you're working practices. And that's when, like, what you call the dog days of camp, because it's basically like Groundhog Day. You're doing the same thing for 3 weeks straight until that first preseason game. And then that's the other part of working, a training camp. You get to be around for the preseason games, which that's kind of like your reward at the end of it, where it's like, all right, man, you did all of this stuff. You've busted your butt for all these weeks, and you really haven't seen anything. Now we get to go play another team, and it happens to be another pro team. So it's like, whoa, this is cool. You get to go to the stadiums, you get to travel, you get to do all of that stuff. So that's where it gets really, really cool. That's when I really, really enjoyed camp. When you started, you're not hitting each other anymore. You're hitting another team now.
Right.
So,
right.
And as a summer guy or gal, because now there's females in there, which I think is awesome. You get to experience that. You get to experience just the team practicing against each other. You get to really learn what a football practice and flow goes like, and then you go and you play other teams. You have 4 preseason games, and then usually your time ends shortly after, maybe 2-3 days after the last preseason game, because at that point, that team or every team in the NFL starts their regular season. So that's where the 2 seasonals or 1 seasonal, whatever it may be, that's where they kind of take the show and they go with it. But all of the extra help, which is, the summer interns, that's where, you're gone and you go back to school or whatever it is that that you're at, and then that's kind of where the season goes from there.
And what are what are some things you didn't, I guess, that kind of you didn't expect, like going into it? You know what I mean? Going into the summer internship. You know what I mean? Like I know it like looks really cool, and there's a lot of really good things about it. But what are some of the things that kind of caught you off guard? You know, kind of again the things that you wish you knew, the behind the scenes stuff that maybe people wouldn't know about.
Yeah.
Game days, awesome, and working with the staff and things like that. But what are some things that kind of caught you off guard going into some internship?
I always tell people that the NFL logo is this very big, glamorous, glittery logo that it's like, oh my God, that's the pros. And it's exactly that, right? My first day there, I was like, holy crap, these are the best of the best, right? And they are. The NFL athletes are the best of the best football players in the world, right? And within a few days, the glamour of it, you just lose it, because it's like, this is the best of the best, but holy crap, I'm doing a lot of work right now, and this is this is go 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 all the time. The one thing I wasn't expecting, because even in my undergrad, it was cool because you're working with the athletic trainer, but every team is kind of, I didn't have football in my undergrad, so all the teams are kind of small. You know your athletes one-on-one. You get to your first few days of camp, and you've got 110 guys just running around. And like me being a Dolphins fan growing up, I knew who some of the players were, but you don't know who every single player is. So you have to get this thing. It's like, all right, well, I got to learn who's who really, really fast. I got to do this, I got to do that. So, and then everything at that point, it's like, hurry up and wait. Everything has to be done quickly, has to be done efficiently, has to be done right, and I guess I wasn't really expecting that, just because from what I was used to, like, things got done, but you kind of just took your time with it and stuff, like, no, that's not how it works, at least at the NFL level. At least that's not how it works at the Dolphins. Like, you needed to get things done now, and it better be right. So like things like that, like I wasn't expecting that, and that kind of caught me off guard a little bit at the beginning, but you just, like everything, you just adapt to it and you pick it up. And if you have an open mindset to it, if you go into that hating it already, be like, oh man, I don't like that this guy told me to hurry up. You got to have a little bit of a thick skin, and what I feel like working those summer internships with pro teams, they really help you grow some thick skin, because you're gonna get ripped. Like, it's inevitable. It's bound to happen. You're going to get reprimanded for something because you did something wrong and you just didn't know, and then you're like, dude, like, relax. I didn't know, but that's just how it works. That's how you learn. So, it taught you, it really taught me attention to detail. To the littlest of things. And it really teaches you to bust your butt, just kind of like strap in, put your head down and work, because that's what everyone there is doing. Once training camp starts, like, that's it. This is work season. And, the players, sure, they're making a lot of money, but it is your job to keep these players healthy and to keep them on the field. And then people who think that a summer intern has no, impact on that, you are very wrong. Because you are the first line of defense. You are the ones that are providing the treatments for all of these guys. You're the ones that are keeping them on the field when they get hurt in camp. And some of these injuries may linger and roll over to the regular season, but you're the one that's doing all the treatment. So, these are bodies that are absolutely necessary. But, that's kind of what I went in there thinking, oh, I'm really not going to make an impact. And it's like, no. Like, my second day there, I was already, doing a hit-a-mat on the starting quarterback at the time, which was Chad Henne. It's like, whoa, okay, like, this is the guy, we kind of got to get this shoulder all right so that he could throw a ball, So it was kind of impactful like that. But there's just a lot of things that you don't anticipate seeing, you don't anticipate doing, that when you get there, it just catches you by surprise. And whether you've done it once or whether you've never done it at all, it's like, all right, well, we're doing it now. Let's go. So buckle down and just do it the best you can.
Mm-hmm. And how did your summer internship, compare to your seasonal? Because you got a seasonal after that. And so what were some of the things that were the major differences, I guess, moving from a summer to a seasonal position for you?
Right. Well, obviously the length of time, right? Because you're there now the whole year. But with the seasonal position, you have a lot more administrative duties to do. You have a lot more administrative tasks, and the staff counts on you so much more as a seasonal guy as opposed to a summer guy. You know, when the staff needs something in the summer, they go to you, and then you have to go delegate it to the interns to get it done. You know, during the season, the staff goes to you, and you are the intern. So you are the one that it gets delegated to. And you have to make sure it gets done. You know, you're in camp, and you have all of this help to set up practice, and you set up practice in 25 minutes. You set up 7 stations of water, Gatorade, ice, all of this stuff in 7 minutes, and then, oh crap, our 4 interns aren't here anymore. Now it's just me, you know. And then the year before you did it, it was me by myself, and you know, like I had to do everything by myself, and it sucked. It wasn't fun, but I mean, it just teaches you efficiency, man.
Yep.
Like the little green golf cart that we drove around every day, like that. You and that thing become best friends, and like
Yep.
you learn how to maneuver things. You learn how to hold things while driving a golf cart and having a whole bed full of stuff. Like you adapt, and you make it happen because you don't have a choice. You have to get it done.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was really different. And then, especially for road games, if you don't have something on the road, it is your fault because you are the one that are packing things. You are the one that all of the packing lists get handed to, and they say, update it to whatever has to be updated. Ask me if you're going to change anything, and get it done. You know, so that was kind of a little bit of a pressure situation. And it's funny because even to this day, today, if we were to have a football game tomorrow, right before the game starts, I'm still kind of panicking a little bit. It's like, what did we forget? What don't we have? What, you know, and it's that, you know, and I blame the Miami Dolphins for this, but it's just that it's ingrained in you already, man. You're like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. And then the game starts and you're like, all right, cool, we got it. And then when an injury happens, you're like, God, I hope that when I open this drawer, that knee brace is right there. You open it, the knee brace is there. Yes. You know, and it's even if you put it there, the thing is, it's
right,
like you're still gonna freak out. It's always that doubt, you know, and especially on a road game, because when you're at home, it's a little bit easier. You can still get around and get things, but on a road game, you're how many X miles away from your facility. So if you forget something, you're kind of screwed, man. So that's what it, you know, those are the biggest differences. There's a lot more pressure on you.
Man. And then how was it like when after when you moved from the seasonal, you did the clinic job? I mean, you go from football life, you know, summer, seasonal, you're busy doing all stuff on your own, and then, you know, kind of right before you go on your GA ship, you know, you work at a clinic. You know, what was that like, you know, football to the clinic route? I personally have never worked in a clinic setting, so I don't have that experience, so just out of curiosity,
it was extremely different. It was night and day. It was nice that I got to sleep in a little bit, so I didn't have to be up, you know, at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, which was nice. You know, so you got to sleep in a little bit. You know, my hours were from 7:30 to 4 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. So that's where your times. You had every weekend off. You had holidays off. Like, what is that? You know, like football.
Yeah.
You work every holiday. You know, it don't matter if it's a holiday. Christmas, who cares? We're practicing in the morning. You know. You know, stuff like that. So it was really different. Where it was like, man, like, okay, this is cool. I get weekends. I get this and that. But to be totally honest with you, I hated it. I hated that 1 year of clinical experience because I was so used to the football life. I was so used to the hustle and bustle of things, and then I was so used to being on the sidelines. Nothing is more weird than working football at the pro level, especially. Right out of undergrad, you did 4 years straight of it, essentially.
Right.
And then, come Sunday, you're on your couch. You know, me and my dad watching the Dolphins game on TV. And it's like something's weird. I'm not there, you know. And you feel like this void where it's like, no, I need to be there. Like, you know, yeah, all of that work, all of those hours. Like, no, I feel really weird watching a football game from my couch. You know. The clinic was still cool, though, because we still saw these athletes. You know, I got to see the players that I worked with for 4 years because they'd come in for MRIs to see the doctor to get some sort of injection, to get this, that, whatever, you know. Like, so I still saw them, but it was very far and few between. I would see one maybe every 2 months. I'd see someone from the Dolphins maybe once every 2 months. So it was weird. I was always around the physicians, but the really good part and the part that I took the most out of was watching the physicians. Because at the clinical setting, at least how they did it was, I was the one that kind of received the patient first. I did an intake on the patient. Any special tests or anything that happened, I would do that first, and then I would come up with like a plan of what I thought we should do, and then I'd go and I present it to the doctor, and then the doctor would be like, all right, well, let's get and then let's get X-rays, or let's do this. It's whatever we need to do. And X-ray was done in office. So before the doctor even told you to do X-rays, you already knew, oh, we got to put an X-ray order in for this because we have to see it. It's a joint or it's a bone or whatever. So we would do that. But it really, really taught me a lot because you'd see the doctors perform these evaluations. You would be next to the doctor in front of a computer screen going over radiology. Like, I wasn't really taught radiology in undergrad. And I got to learn so much of it because I worked in a trauma clinic where everybody that we saw was broken.
That's awesome.
So it's like, the first time you see a broken ankle, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you go into the room, you're like, whoa, that's super swollen. And then by the second week, you're like, yeah, we got a bimal fracture. We got this and that. We got this type of, Weber B classification fracture for, and it's just like, wait a minute. You sit back for a second, like, I was never taught this stuff, man. Like, how do I know all of this stuff,
Yeah.
So that was really good. And then going into my GA position, into class, when we would go over radiology, all of my classmates were completely lost. And I was just like, oh, yeah, that's a sagittal view of this. This is the AP, this is the lateral, that's the sagittal view of that. We're looking at this, and that. I know what type of fracture that is. Like, it just caught so much faster. And my professor was kind of impressed. He's like, man, you know all of this stuff. Like, how? I was like, well, I worked in a clinic for it. That's how, So that was the really, really like cool part about that clinical experience. You got to see all of these things. I got to see the surgeries pretty much whenever I wanted to,
Yeah.
But I hated it because it wasn't football. It wasn't sports. I was dealing with a lot of older patients that were just aching and hurt. And a lot of people, unfortunately, in society, they just want pain meds. They don't want to go to rehab. They don't want to do anything. They just want to feel better, But they don't want to do anything to feel better. They just want to take a pill, and then that's not the answer. Taking a pill for controlling pain is not the answer. And that's what we ran into a lot. A lot of older patients that didn't want to go to rehab, didn't want home rehab. They just wanted an oxy pill, or they wanted some Toradol pills, or they wanted stuff like that. Oh, it's not how it works. So it was frustrating on that aspect. And then the clinical part, I didn't really do any rehab, and I missed that. With the Dolphins and with undergrad, you constantly did rehab with all of your athletes, and you had a very intimate relationship with these guys because you knew their history. You talked, and you were almost like their psychologist sometimes. And they would tell you their problems. They would tell you all their dating drama and all of this and all of that, and they're like, and unfortunately, you'd see them at their highest of highs, and you'd see them at their lowest of lows whenever a family member passed away. Like, that impacts you because you see this person every day and you see them down and sad and all this stuff. Like in the clinical setting, you see your patient maybe once. Oh yeah, we'll see you in 4 to 6 weeks. So you don't build that intimate relationship with somebody.
That makes sense.
So I don't like that. I like to have relationships with all of your guys in your rehab and stuff. You know who their families are. You know what they like to do in their spare time. Because that's where you can kind of get to them on that level. And then the rehab is just that much better because you understand them,
And so for you, you're kind of, well, exactly where you want to be in a sense where, for now, like the football world, the football, areas where you want to be and where you want to end up, and that's where your passion and your love is and where it lies right now, right? I mean, I guess in the past, but and then that may not change in the future, but.
Right. And I've always said it, and we've even talked about it, that football has a shelf life, especially for what we do as athletic trainers, just because it is so demanding, time-wise, right? Like, yeah, we're doing this podcast on a Saturday, here at 4:19 p.m. in Utah, but next week, that's it. This Saturday's off thing ends because we're gonna have spring practices start up next week.
Football.
And then, but you have Sunday off. No, you don't, because you have to go in and do treatment sessions on Sunday. because you're going to have injuries throughout the week. So it's kind of football season kind of starts up again for the next 6 weeks. And it's hard, So,
Yeah.
but I love what I do.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Like, I mean, I love hearing that, I mean, as long as you're enjoying it, that's like the biggest thing. One question I wanted to ask, because I get asked this sometimes too, was your differences between college football and the NFL. Like, at least from, obviously college wise, the colleges that you've been to, Florida and Utah versus the NFL. Yeah. What are some of the biggest differences when people are like thinking NFL football versus college football?
I mean, it goes without being said, the biggest difference is the talent gap, right? Because watching a practice in the NFL it's poetry in motion, man. And I know it sounds like a dumb cliche, but like, you don't really understand how good these individuals are at what they do until you go from, like what I did, you go from the pro setting, which is that's all you know, and you're like, oh, this guy sucks. And then you go to the college setting, and you're like, whoa, hold on. Like, this is the number 9 ranked team in the country, and we're dropping balls in practice like it's nobody's business, or this guy can't come out of his route, or this guy can't, block this defensive end, or, like little things like that. You start to see the little tiny things.
Gotcha.
And you're like, man, like, so the talent gap for me was the first thing that I realized. I was like, man, these guys, even the Cleveland Browns, who at the time were the worst team, like, they are awesome compared to what these guys are doing. But it's obviously the talent gap is different, but like, it's different too. And people find this kind of weird. Colleges sometimes have more resources than pros. And what do I mean by that? It's college football, especially. Pro football is the biggest business in the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. But college football is also, college sports is a business all in within itself. And football is one of the biggest grossing, sports. That and college basketball are the two sports that make money for college sports. So when you have like boosters, when you have to go recruit people, like, that's a big difference, man, because you're really not recruiting anybody in the NFL. The NFL is a business. They select you. When you get to college, it is totally different. The student athlete selects the school. And all of these schools have to put out the dog and pony show, like we call it, and, impress these kids and want them to go there and try to bring them there, So that was one of the things that, like, I still hate to this day. I hate recruiting, man. Like, all of that stuff, like, I think it sucks.
Yep.
You're trying to convince a 17-year-old kid who doesn't know what the heck they want to do in life, like, oh, this is where you want to be, like, this is the spot and all that stuff. So it's just it's weird, it's kind of, it was weird. And then the other big difference that I first got introduced to when I went to Florida is college football is year round. It really is year round. Because you finish your season, you start winter conditioning, you go straight into spring ball, you go into summer conditioning, you go into training camp, you go into season, and then, oh, by the way, it starts all over again.
Yep.
In the pros, you have training camp, you have your season, and there's an off season. And then you have OTAs and mini camps and stuff like that after your new draft class is in. And then you have another extended break. And it's not like we're not doing anything, we're sitting on our hands during that time. Like, no, there's a lot of paperwork going on, there's a lot of administrative stuff going on, a lot of off-season rehabs going on, and a lot of stuff, like the combine is on right now. So it's like, all of these guys are over there doing medical checks in the combine and doing all these things, so it's not like we're not doing anything. There's a lot of work going on, but you're not on the field working practice. You're not traveling to an away game. You're not doing that stuff. So it's different, and I feel like in the NFL, your year gets broken up a lot better, and there's structure to it. In college sports, there's your year's broken up. It's a different training periods is how I like to look at it.
Yep.
Because the guys are always there. They're always there, with the exception of spring break. And with the exception of the month right after spring ball and before summer conditioning starts. Those two are the only downtimes that you really have when you're in college football. And then, obviously, the bigger the program that you get to, the more busy you're going to be. It's just the reality.
Just
of
how
it.
it goes.
If your team sucks, then yeah, you'll have a lot more downtime. If your team is good, then you're not going to have as much downtime.
Yeah.
There's very, very distinct differences, but there's also very, very, distinct similarities. Like,
Right,
like
for sure.
football's football, man. You're still going to have to work practice. It's still going to be a grueling, time schedule. You're still going to be there every morning, dark and early, and you're going to leave when it's dark. A lot of times the only time that you see the sun is when you're out of practice. So that's the similarities of it. It's still football. And at the end of the day, it's still injuries. You're battling kind of the same stuff. Anatomy hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. So an ankle sprain in the NFL is an ankle sprain in college, man. It's the same stuff.
Yep. You just treat, rehab, and get them back as best you can.
As best you can, as quickly as you can, as quickly as and safely as possible.
Exactly.
That's what it's like.
I kind of have the same answer to people NFL compared to college. A lot of it is that schedule, college football just being all year round versus the NFL with all so many more breaks. And people think it's opposite. They think NFL is going to be way more work, and no, it's actually opposite. There's a lot more work in college than there is in the NFL. Of course, that that changes depending, like you said, a good team, like what level of football, like a D2 or a D3 school versus a SEC football or something.
Right.
Will all vary.
And not only that, like in the off season in the NFL, the guys leave.
Out on vacation and
Bahamas. They have families. Like these guys already have families at that point, and
right.
Just because they play for the Miami Dolphins does not mean that they're from Miami. In fact, 95% of the roster isn't even from Florida.
Yeah, so everyone just flies back home.
They fly back home and they train back home. They do all the stuff.
Yep.
They take their vacations. They go with their families, do whatever they got to do. It's at the end of the day, they're normal people like me and you, and they have their lives, but their job is to play football, which is pretty cool. But that's what it's like, man.
It's awesome, man.
So there's differences, but there's a lot of similarities at the end of the day.
So just kind of gearing up toward the end of the podcast, but wanted to see what are some of your, if like, let's say there are people that are listening just for fun, but let's say if there are people that are listening, at least in athletic training, that are wanting to look into getting involved with football, I guess, what are some tips that you have for people that want to work either, kind of higher level football, whether it's college or NFL, some of the things that you've learned over the way, just kind of sum up maybe like your top 2 or 3 things that you would recommend, kind of for people that would help them out if they're interested in.
Yeah, if they're interested in it. I mean, if you're a student, kind of still figuring out what you want to do. Obviously, the first thing to start is to see if your college or if your program has a football program, right? And if they don't, that's okay, because I'm almost willing to bet that they're going to have you go out to high school sites where you're going to be experiencing football. Obviously, it's not as glamorous and it's not the glitz and everything of and the notoriety of NFL or of big time college football, but it's still football, and you get to be thrown into the fire, so to speak, with a lot less available to you. But at the end of the day, it's still the same sport. You're still going to have those injuries there at that level. So I would say you start there. You start at high school, and that's kind of where I started. That's kind of where everyone really starts, You start at the high school level, and you're like, yeah, I like this. This is cool. I like this. And the schedules for high school aren't as grueling as college or pros and stuff like that. So it gets you. You definitely get your feet wet with that. The next thing I would say is, if you're in a program that has a college football, team, do whatever you can to go either work spring ball or work training camp and work the season, because even if you don't get to work the season or training camp, you're still working spring ball. So spring ball nothing is different. You're still passing the ball, you're still running plays, you're still having contact. It's still football, and you do have your spring game, which is an exhibition type thing, where it's a scrimmage against each other. But it's still a football game, so you get to experience that. So, I mean, I guess that very, very big tip is get involved. Get involved with football. You have to, if you want to do it, you have to get involved with it, because if there's something I've learned just going through athletic training, it's every sport has their little caveats. Every sport has their certain ways that they treat things, have certain time periods that you need, An elbow injury in football is not the same as an elbow injury in baseball or an elbow injury in tennis. A knee injury in football is definitely not the same as a knee injury in basketball. Patella tendonitis puts a player in basketball down for 2 weeks. Patella tendonitis in football, it's like, dude, put a strap on and let's go.
Right.
So that's what people have to experience. They gotta experience that it's different for every sport. At the end of the day, you're still treating people the same. You're still treating the same injuries, but the way that they are treated and the way that people recover for to have to do what they have to do in their sport, it's a little bit different. So that's what I try to explain to our students. Now at Utah, say, hey, it's great that you experienced football. And for some of them that was their first rotation, so it's like awesome. You got to see like pretty much everything, right? But now some of them go to gymnastics, and some of them go to baseball, some of them go to women's volleyball. So you're experiencing all these other sports, but you're not going to see some of the same injuries. A finger dislocation in football, depending on the position, but it's not really a big deal. Like, buddy tape it, put it back, just go. Finger dislocation in volleyball, that's a very big deal. Because they have to spike with that hand, or they have to, still set and stuff. So that's where they start to learn, the differences and stuff. But if you want to work football, you just got to get involved with it, man. And then, yeah, like NFL-wise, we've had 3 students now from Utah get accepted to a summer internship.
Nice.
And for football teams, I think it's the Saints, the Chargers, and the Vikings. And like they kind of went up to me and they're like, hey, I'm interested in doing this. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know what I got to do, And it was, I always tell this to everyone. This is what I did. This is what you did. You have a cover letter, you have a resume, and you send out 32 letters to 32 NFL teams. And if you don't hear back from anybody, don't let that discourage you. Keep trying.
Yeah.
And if you do hear back from one person, perfect. That could be the team that you get on with.
Yep.
You have to have good references. Have to have people that are willing to vouch for you, that are willing to put their neck on the line, so to speak, for you. Because at the end of the day, this is, you're recommending them, but they're trusting your decision on this person. They don't know
Absolutely.
who this person is. So, you have to have good references and all of that, but, you just have to try, man. You have to try, and if for whatever reason football doesn't work out, hey, guess what? There's still pro baseball. There's still pro basketball. There's
other
pro
areas.
hockey.
Mm-hmm.
There's other areas that if you do end up getting something like that, and you still say, hey, I still want to go to football, having that pro team on that resume
can help you.
Already gets you from here to all the way up here,
Yeah.
and that helps you get into football. So just, it's sometimes it could be discouraging, sometimes it could be tough, but you just can't. You got to just keep going. If this is really what you want to do,
Yeah.
if you are that serious about working football at the NFL level, so to speak, you just got to keep going until you finally get it, man. And you got to be lucky. A little bit's luck,
I'm with you on that one. Real quick, and I was asking you your tips, but just to kind of piggyback off of that, I actually, and then some people know, some people don't know, when I was applying for summer internships, 3 years, all 32 teams, 0 internships. Like that took me 3 years of all 32 teams before I even got an interview for a summer internship, which led to a summer internship. But so if you're listening, like it, like Danny was saying, sometimes you apply and you get it and it all goes pretty smooth. But if you don't, you just apply again. And if you really want it, you just be persistent. Don't let the rejection stand in the way.
And then for me, it was weird because, like you went through all of that, right? You got rejected for 3 years straight. And for me, the first chance.
Right. Yeah. See.
But then, flip side, when I was trying to get into grad school, I had the same experience where I would interview with people and I'd get denied, or you have everything, you are accepted, and you still get denied. So you got it with the NFL part, I got it with grad school part. Like, you're gonna experience it no matter what, which is a thing, But absolutely, man. Like it's gonna be discouraging and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna suck. You're like, man, am I not good or am I not this? You're gonna kind of check yourself and you're gonna question yourself. Just keep going, man. Somewhere.
Exactly.
And now you're wearing a Rams shirt, so you got to work with the Rams. You have Dolphins gear, it's like you worked with all these teams. You worked with the Chargers, right? You did a summer with the Chargers.
No. It's Seahawks. The
Seahawks. Sorry.
Yeah.
You worked with 3 NFL teams. Like, that's freaking awesome, dude.
I was super fortunate, man. It
like
went from nothing, and then it just kind of you
and it
just
just took
gain
off.
momentum. Yeah, you just have no idea.
Exactly.
But absolutely.
But yeah, that's what I told my students, and thankfully, I think 5 of them applied and 3 of them got a spot. And those
That's
other
awesome.
2, like I told them, hey man, like don't let this, keep trying, and there's other things. And then here in Salt Lake, especially, you got the Utah Jazz right in downtown, which is 5 minutes away
Right.
from campus. What happens if you shoot an email? Hey, can I
And
observe
just
for a few days or something?
exactly.
That's how you build that connection. And all of a sudden, they're the ones that are asking you, hey, you want to come back for an internship?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't think about that. They're like, oh, well, no one's going to answer my email. I'm nobody. It's like, well, you don't know if you don't
Put it
try.
out there and see. Yeah, put it out there and see what happens.
Put it out there and see what sticks, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But
Let the market decide.
But that's exactly. Yeah, that's how it is.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, this was an awesome little podcast session. It's officially my longest one yet.
Yeah, this was. I'm sorry for.
Yeah, it was awesome.
No, it was cool, man. This is my first podcast.
This is gonna be interesting to see if dude, we'll put it out there.
Anyone listens to this.
I think it'll bring some good insight.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Man. These are just my experiences. Obviously, everyone has different experiences, but man, it's all.
Yeah, and that's the goal too, is just to really just to bring on everyone with their own experiences, and someone out there will relate to somebody, whether it's you or me or somebody else, and so really just trying to create something informative, man, and so I appreciate you kind of sharing everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, some of the behind the scenes stuff, and hopefully it helps someone out there with it, and if you guys have questions about football, if you reach out to me or Danny's for now at the time of recording at the University of Utah football, so you can find him there if you've got questions. Hopefully you're okay with me just throwing it out there.
Absolutely, man. People helped me get to where I'm at. It's only fair that I do that to people. It's fair that I could help them and help them get somewhere. So I'm all for it, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Any questions?
Appreciate it.
Let me know. I'm all about it.
Good stuff. All right, Danny. Good talk. I appreciate you, my man. And then, we'll talk soon.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
All right, brother.
Deuces.